Okay, so we just watched Saladin the Victorious from 1963. It's 3 hours long. So this is my first really long one from the list. Yeah, it's on the list because it's an African film. The director is Youssef Chahine. It's Egyptian, so however that's pronounced, I'm sure I'm murdering it. It's historical epic, which does take some liberties, but I mean, you kind of have to. 7.5 out of 10. It was a very charming film. I enjoyed it. Okay. So it clearly had a bit of an agenda. I understand that this came out during basically the heyday of the Pan-Arabist movement. And so this was very much Saladin is the uniter of all the Arabs, and so it was like Crusaders versus Arabs, and I get that. But okay. The Crusader camp, obviously they're there, they're invading. But the camp is just filled with the worst fucking people, and it's just treachery and duplicitous snakes scheming against each other, with the notable exception of Richard, who is a hothead, but honorable. And then Saladin's camp is absolutely pure, nice, solid guys, do no wrong, not a single bad thing done on their part. Let's be honest with ourselves here. There's no such thing as a moral army. You are going to have bad eggs on either side of any conflict. And while some movies focus on the two leaders in this, who are considered to be the paragons of honor, so to speak, Saladin and Richard, it would make more sense to me if they left room for nuance on either side. I don't know. Maybe that's just me. I have to, in my head, compare this at least a little bit to Kingdom of Heaven, because this does a fun job of portraying Richard as honorable, but also temperamental. And Kingdom of Heaven did a good job of presenting Saladin as honorable, and he didn't want to fight. Reluctant to go to war, reluctant to lay waste to a town, sort of thing, but pragmatic and knowing when things have to go down. And I get that. God, yeah, they were doing some heavy lifting from the get-go. They established at the start of the film, there's a historical figure, Renault, and so they make him, not only is he clearly evil, but he's also, getting cucked by his wife, which is just, a total, I don't know where that's coming from in 1963, but I chuckled, because he winds up not even being the only one. At one point in the film, she cucks the whole goddamn town, so to speak. Yeah, they have the king of... This is what really threw me. So the king of Jerusalem, because Jerusalem at the time was a Crusader state, kingdom. The king of Jerusalem was a fella named Guy. I assume that's how it's pronounced, as opposed to Guy. G-U-Y. It's a French name. Guy, And I know that there was, in Kingdom of Heaven, they also fought Saladin, and it was King Baldwin IV. And there was a whole other Baldwin in between Baldwin IV and Guy, historically speaking. And I guess they just all dealt with Saladin, so I was like, was he just really old when he died or something? No, he was in his 50s. They just cycled through that many kings, which I guess it's easy to cycle through Baldwin IV. He did have leprosy, but still. But yeah, Renault is just absolutely vile guy, bloodthirsty, just a total dick the whole time. he's like, oh, like the king of Jerusalem is like, I have promised the pilgrims safe passage into the city to do their pilgrimage. It's the same thing we'd offer to anybody, so leave them alone. And Renault was like, you know what? We're poor, we need money. Let's go kill them and take their stuff. And the ensuing bloodbath was, A, the blood looked terrible, but B, the action was actually creatively shot in a way that I felt was very satisfying. You saw one person get hit with a sword, basically. And while it did look so comically bad when he got hit, because he just gets like bopped on the head and he's just like, wait, what? And then he goes down. But like everybody else who gets sworded, you don't see anybody get like run through with a sword or anything, because they didn't have that kind of budget. So they would have a whole lot of action shots of like a shadow of a horse running, and like a blood spatter, and people running, the camera spinning. It was good. It was well done. I was impressed by that. It's a good choice for when they don't want to have to like figure out prosthetics and gimmicked swords and whatnot. You don't need Tom Savini for this sort of thing. So yeah, because of that action, and the whole reason he does this is because he knows that Saladin wants to take Jerusalem. And that is something that is laid out at the start of the film, right before the cold open even, is, they have Saladin in his camp, and he's just like, we cannot abide, that this holy city that belongs to the Arabs should be in the hands of Europeans, so we gotta go and take it from them. And then the theme song plays. The theme song kind of slaps. I will say that much. But yeah, the cold open just, lays down. At first I thought that was going to be the plot. Saladin wants to siege the city and to take Jerusalem. No, actually no. Most of the plot of the movie is he's already taken it. This stuff with Renault is what lays the foundation for him taking the city. So Renault, like he's got like his forces out in the countryside, and he's doing his villain thing, and he's just being a general dickbag, and they've got like a stalemate. Him and his forces have taken the high ground, and they've set up camp up there, and Saladin's forces are on the low ground, and they're surrounding him, and they're like, well, we can't go up and get him because he's got the high ground, so we will get slaughtered, so we will just wait down here. And what we'll do while we wait down here is, I'm going to send people in. We're going to get some ninjas in there, and they're going to destroy his water supply, basically. So there's these two big water tanks, and just like a platoon of dudes come out of, they sneak in, and they come up with axes, and they just hack the things open and then bolt. And immediately the next scene, everybody's got chapped lips. It's like, oh, wow, they need that lip chap stick real bad. But also, I thought it was funny that they were like, we need to get their water supply so that they will be dying of thirst up there, because the people they sent in to do it swam in. That's how they snuck in. They swam in. And I'm like, if the camp is that close to the water, that you can emerge from the water and sneak past their tents immediately, they don't need the tanks of water. They can just drink from the river. Like, that's... I know, I shouldn't complain about plot holes, but that is definitely a strange plot hole. Oh, we're dying of thirst. There's a river right there, but it's fine. And yeah, so it happens, his Renault's forces lose the battle decisively, because he's like, I don't care if everybody's thirsty. We're gonna go out there and we're gonna get them. Thirst will make my troops fight better. That's how that works, right? No. So they all get captured, and they get taken back to the palace, and so Saladin has... So he goes into Jerusalem, and the king of Jerusalem is like, hey man, I know you're chill, so we can have a conversation, we can chat, we can negotiate. And that's the whole thing, is that the king of Jerusalem wants to parley. He wants to negotiate with Saladin because he knows he's got this reputation as a level-headed, reasonable dude who doesn't want to necessarily go fight. And that was his position all along. He's like, Renault, leave those pilgrims alone because I can talk to Saladin and we can reach an agreement. And Renault is like, no, fuck him. I want money. And so he rolls out. So they're all in the place, and Saladin is there, and he's like, I've now taken Jerusalem. And they, and so the deposed king of Jerusalem, they're like, are we gonna die here? Like, what's going on? And the deposed king just says to him, well, no, trust me. When an Arab offers you water, he's offering you your life. We are fine. And Renault is like, I want to drink the water. Gimme. And so he takes, like, everybody, there's like somebody walking around with a pitcher to fill cups for all the captured prisoners. And he just grabs the pitcher and it's just like, I'll chug the whole thing. Right in front of everybody. And Saladin is like, you suck. Somebody deal with this guy. And he's like, I only fight a king. I am Renault. Don't you know who I am? And like, he's not anybody super important. He's a political figure, but he's not on the level of a king. So Saladin is like, fine, I'll fight you then. Give him a sword. And I did appreciate that even the way that they made Renault fight was very much like he fights like a villain. He fights like a heel. He's got his sword and he's doing tricky things. Like he slashes at the chandelier and tries to make it fall on Saladin while they're sword fighting. He grabs an axe and is like dual wielding. Oh, I have two weapons. You didn't plan on that happening, did you? And he gets run through because, he did die historically, so, that's gonna happen. He's also more or less our mid-boss. With him dead, Saladin has cemented his claim over Jerusalem, so now he's in charge, which kicks off the Third Crusade. There's, her name was Victoria, I believe? There was, Renault's wife, the one who was cucking him. She was like, I'll show you. I'm going to go flee to Europe, and I'm going to summon the kings of England, France, and Germany, and they'll all show you. And I'm over here like, this is set in the 12th century. Germany's not a thing for another 700 years. What the shit? Now, apparently, Germany, they meant she was going to go to the Holy Roman Empire and gain assistance from Frederick Barbarossa, apparently. We never see him. It's weird. God. I do have to point out there is a running subplot throughout the whole thing there is somebody in Saladin's camp named Isa and somebody in the Crusader camp named Louisa. And she is an archer and leader of a battalion of Hospitallers, which is knights of a sort. And Isa is Saladin's best friend and a good swimmer. And the swimming is a plot point. Remember when I mentioned those guys came out of the water? He led them because he's a good swimmer. It comes up. So, there's just a recurring thing where they run into each other and she puts an arrow in his back, but it's a non-vital place, blocked by a shoulder blade. She's like, oh hoo hoo, now I'm getting away, tee hee. Next time maybe my arrow will pierce your heart, hee hee. And he's just like, oh you, excuse me, I'm bleeding. And they bump into each other a few times. He's there on the raid and she bumps into him and she's just like, oh, it's you. And he's like, yeah, it is. I'm stealing your water. Sorry. A whole lot of back and forth. Decades before Metal Gear Solid, we are given proof that love can indeed blossom on a battlefield. They get together in the end. It's a very touching scene. It's just a whole lot of happenstance. I did enjoy when they were fighting against Renault's forces on the thing. They were like, we don't have enough soldiers to actually fight him in like a united front. So what we're going to do is we're going to narrow the front by using walls of fire. They made walls of fire. And in order to visually represent that, they lit one log on fire and filmed over top of it and had action happening behind it. So that was just some set dressing they did. They only had $360,000 to work with, which is not a lot in modern money either, but maybe it's a lot relative to Egyptian productions. Like, for comparison, I had to do conversion here. They had $360,000 to work with for their production costs. Ben-Hur, which came out just 4 years earlier, had a budget of $15 million. So, kudos to them for making this epic action film with swords and knights and dudes fighting and big sweeping shots. Kudos to them for making this on less than $1 million at the time, because woo, expensive. So as mentioned, Victoria does escape, and she goes to Europe to recruit some various kings from Europe. We don't see Frederick Barbarossa, like I said. She goes to the court of Philip Augustus, the King of France at the time, and also King Richard of England. God help them, they managed to incorporate some Robin Hood lore here, because King Richard is like, I have to go off and fight for the Holy Land against these barbarians, and Prince John, while I'm gone, you're in charge of England. And John's just like to his advisor, he's like, you're gonna go with him, and if he doesn't come back, then I'm King of England forever. And they're like, yeah, hail to the king. So we'll make that happen. So this guy has a bit of treachery the whole way through, where he's just like, I need to conspire against Richard and also fuck things up for Saladin so that I get to be king of Jerusalem. Like, that was his whole thing. The film also managed to commit my single favorite thing to point out when it comes to Robin Hood. Robin Hood in general, but like King Richard and everything. He's in England. She goes to England and he's like, oh, look after England for me. He didn't care about England. Yes, he was king of all England, but England was like a pastoral backwater that was like, it wasn't that important to him. He also held half of continental France, not as king, but like as basically a duke. And France was the cultural center of Europe at the time. It was the seat of learning. France was the place to be. And so Richard the Lionheart's throne and his court would have been in France. So really, Victoria only needed to make one stop in France. Be like, all right, I'm going to go see him, and then I'll go down the road and I'll see him, and it'll be a good time. Also, they made both of these kings so goddamn ginger. Is there like a thing? Is this a thing in like Arabic film? Like, I know in anime, when they want to code a character as being like very American, they will make him blonde and like occasionally wear a flag and have like blue eyes. Think Geese Howard, think Terry Bogard, think Bandit Keith, think Guile from Street Fighter, Very blonde, very America. Is there a thing like that in Arabic film for like Europeans and redheads? Or like, I don't know, specifically Western Europeans? Because like it happened for the French king too. Renault kind of had that going on too. There's a lot of it going on. It's definitely a weird look. The fact that I think that they're using like white face makeup to lighten everybody's skin, because this is an Egyptian production. It doesn't help. It just, I don't know. It's very Uncanny Valley, and I don't know why. It's just an awkward shade of red. I have to think that they're Richard the Lionheart. He feels very much like Iskander from the Fate series. If you've seen it, if you have any idea what I'm talking about, you know he's this boisterous, fighty motherfucker who's super about being the king, and that's what's going on here, and they both are ginger as hell. Which is also inaccurate to the real Alexander the Great. I loved that she goes to the king. She goes to King Richard, and she's just like, you know, the Holy Land is being desecrated by barbarians. You have to come help. And she goes to King Philippe of France, and she's just like, we have money, just straight up, all the treasures of the East, and holds up some gems. And it's just, you know, it just reminds me of something.
كنوز الشرق، الإمارات الصليبية الغنية يا مولاي الملك فيليب. كل ما تتصوره من ثروات استولى عليها صلاح الدين. كل هذا الغنى يمكن أن يصبح ملكا خاصا لك يا ملك فرنسا.
I have a bag of jewels for you. They're jewels, Betty. They're jewels. I got them all for you.
We cut back to the battle. You know, Saladin is in Jerusalem, and all the Crusader forces are sailing in now, and they're all looking out at sea, and they're just like, oh no, Richard, that's the banners of Richard the Lionheart, and Philip Augustus, and Bohemond of Antioch, who I had to look up, and he was dead when this happened. So, what are you doing? And I just... So, Virginia comes in, and because she's, like, sort of working with the deposed king, who... He's still sort of important in the city. Saladin didn't put him to death, and he's still there. And so she's just like, lol, I'm gonna open the gate, and she lets them in. It wasn't Jerusalem, I guess. It was like, God, where was it? The city was called Acre, like the unit of land. But I'm sure it was I'm sure that's like a French name, like it's Acre or something like that. But like, yeah. So they take that, and you see these admittedly kind of primitive, but good for their time, green screen effects. All the ships off in the background as the guards are fiddling around in the foreground. You could tell they shot models and just were like, we'll edit it in post. We can do green screen. Somehow. I do not understand how they're doing green screen back then, but they don't have digital effects. This is all done with film. How did they do it? I don't know. Somebody much smarter than me when it comes to film techniques figured that one out. But yeah, she goes up to the husband, and he's like, okay, we'll let them in. Kiss me, my lovely. And she's like, lol, no, and opens the door, and she cucks the whole city. Just the crusading army comes in, and she's like, lol, we did it. I'm amused at the fact that the whole time, like, so now that Richard the Lionheart is on scene, Saladin is just like, he's like, I've heard a lot about this guy. He's a very cool dude. He is, honorable. Surely he and I can come to an agreement on terms. Saladin, #1 Richard the Lionheart fan. It's a good ship. That is, a great pairing right there. It does not happen on screen. This is an Egyptian production from the 60s. That was not going to happen. They have this, so there's a whole lot of, like, just back and forth fights. The Crusaders have figured out a way to they have siege towers. And this, like, blows the minds of Saladin's forces. They just wheel him up to the wall, and then people climb up the wall. They're like, oh my god! They figured out ladders! Oh, how can we compete against this? And so it was like a big thing. The battles were like, we're going to lose all of these fights because they perfected ladder techniques. We can't do anything about that. And so they come up with this harebrained scheme where they're going to have the guy who can swim. This came up again. So he swims around into the city of Jerusalem. And is Jerusalem even coastal? I don't think it's even coastal. So this, again, doesn't make a whole lot of sense. Maybe it wasn't Jerusalem. But yeah, he swims in there and he gets like a formula he sneaks out a dude who has been working on a formula. They tell us this fellow, I think his name was Damascene, has developed a liquid that will destroy the towers. And I'm just like, this is the most Dynasty Warriors shit I've ever seen in a movie about conflict. Like, you have armies marching around in square formations. You have people doing things like, we'll light fires over here to divert their forces into the middle. We'll obliterate their siege towers using a mysterious liquid that we've developed partway through the fight. Like, that is straight up a thing that would happen. You'd have to be like, oh, you have to hold off the enemy generals while Zhuge Liang comes up with the magic liquid to defeat the siege engines. I could see that happening. That is 100% something that would happen in that. And honestly, how Koei needs to make a I don't know, Crusader Warriors or something. They made Samurai Warriors. This could happen. Make it fucking happen. I want my playable Richard the Lionheart. Make it happen. There's a great scene about 2.5 hours into the thing, where Louisa is sort of she's sort of on trial, sort of. People like calling her out because the swimmer wound up getting caught by a guard and slashed with a sword, and he fell into the water and he washed up further down the shore, and they're like, oh, he's wearing a cross, he's a Christian. He is a Christian. So they're like, we have to help him. So they brought him to the medical tent and they're patching him up, and she works in the medical tent as just like a holy labor type thing. Offering succor to the needy is a thing. Anyway, so she's in there and she realizes it's him, and she's like, let me sneak you out of here. And so when they find out that she has snuck him out, they're like, oh no, is she a traitor? And it turns out they find somebody else as a traitor, and they shoot this scene in this way where she's they're all having a conversation and she's just steely-eyed looking down at the ground because she's enraptured in thought about what's going on, and the lights go out slowly in the background, hiding the figures behind her until she's the only one lit up. And then camera pulls back, and there's another scene off to the left where the lights come on, and it's Saladin's camp having a similar conversation. Somebody has been sent out by Prince John's loyal dude who wants to become the king of Jerusalem. I think his name was Arthur. And he's like, oh, I'll offer you this, a way into the city, and then this will be, you can win the fight, and you'll be able to kill Richard. And so it's the lights are coming on and going off, and the two scenes end up colliding when they end up Saladin ends up confronting Arthur, even though they're on in different areas, just through the scenes going back and forth. Really interesting technique. I liked that part a lot. It was very creative. Saladin offers to have Richard over for Christmas, which is a thing. He's just like, hey, Christmas is coming up. You want to spend Christmas in Jerusalem? I know you're a Christian. That's your jam, right? And he's just like, I have to really think about this. because I don't trust that guy. Because all of my advisors who are snakes keep telling me how evil he is, even though I keep seeing things that he does that aren't evil. I'm so conflicted as Richard the Lionheart. And so, he's like eventually, alright, here's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna roll up with a small contingent of like armed men, a small army, and I'll make up my mind at the door. So he gets there and he's like, I'm gonna go in for Christmas. And as soon as he gets off his horse and is about to approach, zoop, he gets shot with an arrow. Down he goes. And they're like, oh no, he's being shot with a poisoned Arab arrow. Rest in peace, King Richard the Lionheart. And I'm over here like, that's not what happened. He survives. He survives this too. It is a poisoned arrow. Everybody's like, he's dead, he's dead. He wasn't dead, he was in his tent. And so what happens is, Louisa fucking sneaks Saladin himself in personally so that he can suck the poison out. So he comes to Richard in bed, and he does a little medical thing, and he's just like, oh, I will touch your wound with this metal that will sap out the poison, and you have to drink this thing. And he, like, gingerly, tips the bottle into his lips and, drink the stuff and be well. And so Richard is just like, whoa, I'm awake now. What the fuck? You're like, oh yeah, no, I'm Saladin, I'm here. And he's just like, why are you everywhere, even in my dreams? I am not making that up. I'm abridging somewhat. But he is very much like, everywhere I go, it's all about you, even in my dreams. What is going on here? Thank you for coming and saving my life. And so they're allowed to sneak out. And then all the force is like, King Richard's is alive! Oh my gosh, he's okay! I knew that no venom could possibly fell King Richard. He's so handsome and dreamy and strong. And so he's like, okay, so he saved my life, but also we gotta fight. Because we've had too many people die to not fight. And also I need to get Jerusalem back because, like, the Pope and everything... you don't come back from a crusade unsuccessful and be like, why, we did it. No, you don't do that. He wants the triumphant arch. He wants to go up to the Pope and be like, I did the thing. Look at me. King Big Dick, That's why Dick is short for Richard, I guess. King Dick the Lionheart. But yeah, no. So they're doing the thing, and they've got the siege towers out, and they're sieging the walls. And finally, thank God, they had the guy bring out the mystery magic fluid, and he's just like, "Oh, I've never produced so much in such quantities before, but we have it ready." And it's like a giant tank, like a giant wooden barrel on wheels, and he's just like, keep fire away from it. And I'm like, oh god, it's just napalm, isn't it? It's just napalm! So they're just lobbing, like, Molotov cocktails at the siege weapons. And I'm like, I don't believe this. This is not accurate. No way. Nuh-uh. And so people are getting burned badly. A siege tower falls on Victoria, and she screams, and Louisa pulls her out of the wreckage. And after the battle, after everybody's run, there's a whole bunch of people who were, like, badly burned, and they've got, like, burn prosthetics on their faces and arms and whatnot. And she's just like, I'm no longer a great beauty, I've lost it all. I fucking hate this. That's the guy who shot the poison arrow at Richard. Go get him. And it's Arthur, and he's just like, how dare you? And he goes to choke her out, and, like, Louisa runs to the camp and she tells Richard's wife, and so they put Arthur in a cage, and him and Saladin come to an agreement. I also thought it was funny. So no, they're getting ready to fight, and it's Christmas. It's Christmas, guys. It's Christmas in Jerusalem. And Saladin is like, hey, Merry Christmas to Isa, who is his best friend and good swimmer and also Christian. And he just says to the other generals in the room, hey, you guys didn't wish Merry Christmas to Issa. And they all come up like, hey, Merry Christmas, Happy New Year. And they actually said Happy New Year. And I'm like, the Islamic calendar's New Year is in June. Guys, it's not New Year. No, not even close to Christmas. Guys, no, you know this. Like, no. Anyhow, they're all wishing him a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. You hear fucking, God, what's the Christmas carol? Oh, come let us adore him, Christ the Lord. That's playing, but it's like, oh, come all ye faithful. That's what it's called. And so that's playing. And it starts to snow in Jerusalem, and I'm like, it's a Christmas miracle, or possibly a Christmas metaphor. Saladin and Richard are able to just have a good old heart-to-heart and be like, hey, a lot of people are dead. Maybe we can just stop. I know you don't want to fight. I don't want to fight. Do you want to fight? No, but I should be king of Jerusalem. Well, why do you have to be king of Jerusalem? It's like, I guess I don't. Alright, well, you can go home. And, hey, if you want, come back next year as a pilgrim. We'll hang out. It'll be fun. We'll do, we'll braid each other's hair. It'll be great times. And so, they come out and they're like, oh, we've come to an accord. He's gonna go, and we keep the city. And so Richard mounts up and he draws his sword and he points it up and he does the heroic pose. And he puts the sword away and he's just like, okay. Off we go. And we're taking Arthur with us. And Arthur's just in a cage on like a cart yelling about how he's the rightful king of Jerusalem. And then the film ends with Saladin just riding his horse out onto a hill and looking directly at the camera and being like, God has given me Jerusalem for being righteous. The end. So, it's a historical drama, so obviously we know how it's going to end. He is going to take the city. That's how the Third Crusade ended. King Richard the Lionheart traveled back to, quote, England, France. He went back to France, except along the way he got snagged by the Holy Roman Emperor. So he got ransomed. And, So he got held for ransom, and he eventually made it home after the ransom was paid. Hey, if you were wondering why Prince John needed to raise so many goddamn taxes and Robin Hood hated it, it's because he had to pay for his brother's ransom. Ooh, turns out crusading is expensive. But yeah, this is it's a charming movie. It has its agenda. Obviously, it is very much a it's an epic produced. I kind of want to liken it to Gone with the Wind, where like that was produced as a sort of like lost cause propaganda piece. This is also very much like a pan-Arabist propaganda piece. Big epic sweeping battles and tugging on the heartstrings and showing you just how good the old boys were. Except in this case, it's just how upstanding and moral and righteous everybody in Saladin's army was. And like, it's an army. You're going to have people who do war crimes. You're going to have people who are shitty. That's inevitable. That's a fact of the world, you know? But enjoyable. I dug it. It was well shot. They had a lot of good experimental film techniques. The green screen is distracting in places, but you will get it. And also just, why so much red hair? Why so much red hair? Also, I like that they just distinguished Richard the Lionheart from the French king, because the French king is just like this sniveling, like, I want money. Ooh, I'm the bad king. And Richard is like, I'm the good king. I'm here to fight because fighting is what's good. And, you know, just a fun juxtaposition. They had room for the good guy, they had room for the bad guy, and for them to just, you know, shake hands at the end and be like, hey, good game. Good game, the away team is going home now. You know? So, yeah, a long review, because it's a long-ass movie. We will find out what we're going to watch next time. I'm going to put that right here. Alright, they're off. Out front is the fabulous Baron Munchausen, Czech film that made the list specifically because it's a Czech film. Seven Samurai, After Hours, bendy glass tubes. It's anybody's race still, because bendy glass tubes are not accurately tracked. Seven Samurai, out front. You son of a bitch! Who cursed me with a 3.5-hour movie? Kiss of the Spider-Woman is it coming up in the back. Fabulous Baron Munchausen, Half a Loaf of Kung Fu. Can they catch up? I mean, I know I put it on the list, but somebody was like, oh, it would be funny if you got Seven Samurai. It got stuck. Half a Loaf of Kung Fu, out front. Oh my gosh, okay, we have actual stakes here. Do I get to watch something fun and goofy, or do I watch a 3.5-hour epic film, Seven Samurai? You know what? I think it might have been Beck's while I was having sushi earlier. Oh god, okay, this is the equalizer here. No, Seven Samurai, out front. Okay. It's doing it to me. It's doing it. This trap might get it. I want to watch it. I will be honest. It's been something I've wanted to watch for a while. Oh! After Hours just shot through that spinner. Followed by Half a Loaf of Kung Fu. Seven Samurai is dead. Oh my gosh. I don't need to worry about a 3-hour movie. The Doom Generation coming up behind it. Half a Loaf of Kung Fu out front again. Guys, what are you doing? The Man Who Fell to Earth, swooping in out of nowhere to take first place. And it is The Man Who Fell to Earth. My first David Bowie entry. Last Hurrah for Chivalry flies off the edge. Yeah, The Man Who Fell to Earth, Dead Calm, The Doom Generation, House, something that a lot of us have been meaning to watch, The Cameraman, A Man Escaped, The Sweet Smell of Success, Moonrise Kingdom, Night on Earth, and Mr. Hulot's Holiday. Alright, well, everything's trickling in now. There's Scanners, there's Night Moves, The Killing of a Chinese Bookie coming in. Teorema flew off the side. Comes The Killers, The Velvet Vampire, The Hit, Never Weaken, Vampire and Fear City are neck and neck. Meeting the Man, James Baldwin, Three Women, Phantasm. Are you guys stuck back there? You're gonna just all burn up. Black Sunday, The Innocent, and Fellini Satyricon all die at the end. And the winner, officially, is The Man Who Fell to Earth. Alright, let me pull up my thing here. My movie list. Alright. The Man Who Fell to Earth. I know David Bowie's in it. I know that much right off the bat. The Man Who Fell to Earth, 1976. It is here from, it got onto the list for being just on the all-time favorites list, so hopefully that means it's great. Directed by Nicholas Roeg, who I don't know who that is. It's a sci-fi drama, 136 minutes, so just over 2 hours, and 6.6 out of 10. So not the highest rated thing I've seen so far, but, or is it?